So the challenges in the garment industry, especially in textile, is how to make sure that the ecosystem works in Indonesia and regional ASEAN. And the issue is right now about the consistency on the policy, because our industry is still as much as labor intensive in the garment sectors, as well as on the textile and the upper stream of the textile. We still focus more on how the interconnectivity and the more infrastructure within place and the ecosystem is there. So the lead time for this fashion industry makes sense. And it's not talking only about the export business, but also talks about the domestic side of Indonesia, because Indonesia, as the fourth populated country in the world, we still need garments and clothing per se. We all know about the Green Bill on EU, as well as most of the advanced country where the global brands actually comes from, or they have headquarters, or they might have commitments to the customer space. So we need to make sure that we are aligned. I'm not saying that we have to start early, but we do need to make sure that our human, the ESG part of our textile and garment supply makes sense in terms of cost, in terms of understanding on the supply chain, because the environment side, the social side, as well as the governance side, we need to on tap and on track on all of that. And sustainability is part of that competitiveness. We all know that in each country we have associations, and the association of the sector can really support members who really have limited resources in terms of understanding on environmental rules, for example, regulations, and then compliance or human resource. One thing that we have to make sure that we are transparent, even though we are on labor and capital intensive industry, the human capital side is as much as important as well as the infrastructures. To me, the human capital side are the most important, and therefore the transparency among us within the supply chain, among us within the factory, the inner selves should be clear, or expectations, perceptions on this industry should be clear, because when perception is clear, then there are no confusions, there are no disappointment, and people who really works on this industry, even though we get huge challenges on disruptions, we really are very passionate in pursuing what make us tick, especially in the clothing industry where it's very competitive already. Every country has our own challenges, and definitely the garment is not the easiest sector in the world. And with all the data that we need to have, we need to make sure that the digitalization part are very, very important for us to make necessary decisions when we have disruption, especially in the last 3 years with the pandemic and then the war. It's really very important that the rhyme are being understood by people in this industry. And therefore, we need to make sure that the digital transformation, not just about the smart factory itself, but the preparations to make sure that the factory can smartly process this competitive product also makes sense. So it's not only about efficiency, productivity, but actually about the data that are being accumulated along the line is as important as the product itself. One thing for sure, earlier I said about perceptions and expectations on people, on human resource. So even though you are in the top, middle, as well as lower middle management, lower management, each one of them put a very crucial role in making sure that the alignment alongside are well expected. And therefore, constant communications, constant transparency, consistent decisions, consistent policy need to be there from day one.